going on, guys? Back at it. I know I haven't been on here for a while, but today I'm at RCG, Rockford Charitables. They're in Elk Grove. We're here at the Sheridan, and I'm gonna be playing 1-2, just buying in for 100 big blinds, $200, and hopefully the session goes well. I think it will. I've been in a little bit of a down slump, but I think I'll pick it up today. Let's go. In this first hand, we're in the big blind, and we look down at ace-6 of diamonds, and there's a limp from under the gun before the button decides to open to 13, and we defend, and the under the gun does as well. I think we could be mixing in 3-bet here, but it's one of our first hands, so we just decided to call. Now, flop is 5-5-7, so not a bad flop for our hand. I think we'll be calling any bet, but it actually checks around. Now, the turn is the Jack of Diamonds, a great card for me to lead, but I definitely think it hits one of them, and they all check. But now the river, we bink it. It's the 8 of Diamonds. So now we have the nut flush, and we're just trying to get any little value we can from lower pairs, or maybe a jack. Potentially an overpair would raise us, but we bet 20 and we get called by Jack 9. I think we could have bet the turn to get more value, but we'll fix it for next time. In this next hand, we look down at Queen Jack of Spades on the button, and it was limped from an early position player and the cutoff. And I decided to bump it up to 15 in position. I think this is a valued size. And the big blind, the limper, and the limper to my right all make the call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes pretty decent for my range. King, King, 6. And with 4 players, I definitely don't think I should be c-betting this a high percentage of the time, but I have most of the ace-kings, king-queens, and higher pocket pairs that would always c-bet this, so I decided to c-bet for 20 and only get called by the big blind. And that's Ash. Shout out to you, Ash. You just subscribed. Thanks a lot, man. And so now we go to a turn of the 8 of clubs, which adds a second flush draw, and I think he's on either a diamond draw or maybe a lower pocket pair like 8 or 9s, 10s, potentially something even lower than that, 7s. But I decided to continue my aggression for 50, as I do have a lot of the kings in my range still. And now he decides to call. So when the river comes the 9 of spades, I don't see much value in trying to get him off of a king with a worse, or a king with a lower kicker, or a smaller pocket pair. So when he checks, I just decide to give up on this spot and check it back. And he actually shows jacks, so I don't think I would have gotten him off this hand, and he says I wouldn't have if I shoved all in for 140, so I think I saved some money there. Another suited hand with 3-7 of spades. We're in the big blind, and it's a straddle pot from under the gun, so we complete for $3 more, and we flop a pair of 3s, and it checks around. So now the turn is a 7 of hearts. Sorry, I'm going fast, so we got to get through it. The small blind leads for 10. I raise to 25 to charge those multitude of draws that are out there, because there's 2 flush draws, some straight draws, and I just want to get some value while I'm ahead. And we get under the gun and small blind to call. And the river comes the Jack of Diamonds. I think I should be leading on this river to get value, but I just want to pick off a bluff from those missed flush draws, and no one decides to bluff at it, and we take it down with 3-7. How about that? In this next hand, we're in the small blind, and we look down at the kings, Cowboys, and it is a straddled pot, and there's 3 limpers, and I decide to raise to 25, and we get 1 limper out of the way, but the straddle and 2 limpers call. So now we go to a flop, a pretty safe one at that, 9-7-3 rainbow, and I decided to lead out here because I don't want to risk it checking through, but Hindsight, I could probably go for a check raise to get value from a 9 who probably wouldn't fold to a check raise, but I decided to lead out for 40 here. Just about one, just under half pot, and we get the straddle to call. Now we go to the turn, which is the Jack of Spades, and I think that's a great card for him. He definitely could have connected with it, but the board is getting more connected now, and I only have about 140 behind, so it's not even a pot size bet. And I tank here for probably like 20 seconds. I don't know what to do, but I just decided to rip it in, hoping he is somehow connected with this board because this specific player is a gambler, but he folds rather quickly, and we take it down. In this next hand, we're in the cutoff, and it's limped by 3 players before. We look down at Ace King of Hearts, and we decide to bump it up to 18. And we get the button, small blind, big blind, and 1 limper to make the call. So we go 5 ways to a flop of 6, 9, 7 rainbow. And the small blind decides to lead out here for 18, which is such a small bet and honestly doesn't show a lot of strength, but this is a board that favors him a lot. So I decide to peel one with some backdoor draws and 2 overs, and everyone actually gets out of the way. So we go heads up to a turn, which is the bank king of clubs. We turn top pair, top kicker, and even better, he decides to lead out for 50. And once we turn this card, I don't think it makes sense for us to raise, but we definitely could be raising to deny equity with some single pair holdings that have some equity, but I don't want to shut down his bluffs. So I just decided to call. And now the river is the 7 of clubs. So I think that's a good card, but when he leads for 100, I just don't love the spot, but I didn't call the flop to turn top and fold. So I flick it in, and we are good versus 9-8 offsuit. So he flopped top pair and an open ender, decided to turn it into a bluff, but we take it down. This next hand, we're in the small line, and we look down at another suited hand, 7-8 of hearts, and it is opened by the button to 7. I think this should be a 3-bet like 100% of the time. This is just such a weak open from late position, and I have a nice hand. So set that aside. I just call, and we go to a flop of 10-7-5 with 1 heart. So honestly, a pretty nice board for myself. And I decide to check to the button. Oh, it's heads up. And he decides to lead out for 11. And I think this is a board that favors me a lot more. So I decided to go with a check raise to 25. And he actually snap calls me. So that's great. I'm putting him on 2 over cards. Ace, queen, ace, king, ace, jack. So now the turn's a 10. And this is a great card for me to continue, as I have more 10s than him. And I now have 2 pair considering. And I decided to lead for 30 for value. But what shocks me is that he actually raises me to 80 now. And that's just so much strength. I don't see many people raising the turn as a bluff. And I decided to fold, and he does actually show me a 10. So, of course, the one hand that he has, I was representing. In this next hand, we look down at ace 6 of hearts in the hijack. And we limped before the straddler made it 15. And we go to a flop of ace jack 4 rainbow. And the initial aggressor leads out for $20. And with a top pair, weak kicker type hand, and some backdoor ideas, I decide to make the call. And the other caller gets out of the way, who is the small blind. And now we go to a turn, which is the 8 of hearts. And when the initial aggressor checks this card to me, he probably has some weaker aces or jack. And I decided to lead with my flush draw now, and he folds, so we take down the pot. In this next hand, I look down at king jack offsuit. This is the RCG hand, actually. It has a king of hearts, jack of diamonds on the engravement. But I decide to open to 12 after it's linked to me, and we get 1 late position, which is Ash. Shout out to you, Ash. And then the small blind, big blind, and that other limper to my right. I didn't catch his name, but he's a new subscriber as well. Thank you, sir. And we go to a pretty interesting flop of 7-7 deuce. And the small blind, big blind, and middle position limper all check to me. and I'm definitely going to have a lot of the over pairs on this board, so I decided to take a stab, which is pretty optimistic into 5 people, but I decided to bet 30, betting my range, and actually I bet 25, and Ash calls, and everyone else gets out of the way. So now we go to the turn, which is the 10 of hearts, and this card probably hits him a lot of the time, and I don't see what he's calling me with on the flop, so I check, and he checks back, actually. Now the queen of spades rolls off in the river, and I think this card hits my range so much that I could put pressure on like nines, eights, hands that decided to call me light on the flop. And I decided to lead for $60 here, making it look like value that I hit this queen. And he raises me to 160. And honestly, a lot of the times when people raise to equal increments, they usually have it. So I got my hand caught in the cookie jar with king high, and I let it go. And he tells me he turned his boat with pocket 10, so good hand. In this next hand, we look down at a pretty interesting hand, an ace-jack offsuit. I'm not a fan of this, but I opened to 12 in under the gun +1 after under the gun limps. And the button, the big blind, and under the gun all call. So interesting development here as we go, once again, 5 ways to a flop. And we flop top pair with the ace 8-4 flop. Pretty good board for my hand. Top pair, decent kicker. So when it is checked to me, I decide to c-bet $25. Just about half pot to deny equity from those draws, the heart draws. And we get called in 2 spots, actually. I think it's the button and the big blind. So I'm not really looking to see a heart on the turn, but we see the best and the worst card on the turn. We see the jack of hearts. So that front door flush gets there. I'm not a big fan of it, but I do beat 2 pairs like ace 8 and ace 4 now. But I don't want to see a check raise, so I decided to check it, and the button actually checks back. So now, feeling pretty good about my hand, the big blind checks, and I decided to go for value when the queen of diamonds comes off in the river. And I go for just about half pot to $60, and they both fold. So I think we had the best hand all along, and we'll take it down. Now, in one of the last hands of notes, I look down at queen 10 suited in the small blind, and the button opens to 11. Once again, these suited gappers or connectors should be 3 bets. I should be raising, but I decided to go again with a check raise when the flop is queen 9-8 rainbow. This board favors me a lot, and I actually do have a good hand right now. So when he bets 12, I raise to 30, and he snap calls. So I'm not sure what that means, but I don't know. We'll take it as it is. Now we turn bink queen of clubs, and I actually decide to check here. And he checks back, and then the river duds off, and we check, and we making sure that lighting's good. But just got done with that little session. Profited 205. I'm trying to think if there's really any spots for improvement. I'm sure you'll hear about it in the video about making different plays. I'm definitely raising pre-flop. I was being a little passive tonight, but overall can't complain. I think I definitely got some good hands, and the cards ran in my favor, so there weren't many coolers, but can't complain about a winning session after I've been down the last few. But once again, I'm hoping to have some more videos popping out in the next few weeks, but I just got to get on my editing grind. And yeah, so 205 profit here at RCG Sheridan, and hope you guys enjoy the video. Let me know about any feedback or any spots that you think I could have played better. But thanks for watching, and peace.